Well, after repeatedly saying that he wasn't going to extend the ceasefire with Iran, Donald Trump has announced that he's going to extend the ceasefire with Iran. And he didn't put a limit on it like he normally does. If you recall, since the beginning of this war, he said you have until this day, or you have 2 weeks, or you have until this day to decide, or I'm going to destroy all of Iranian civilization. But no, this time he's extending it until, quote, such time as their leaders and representatives can come up with a unified proposal. So it's an indefinite ceasefire now, which is good. We don't want there to be a deadline on this ceasefire because we want this war to be over. But it's also dangerous because Donald Trump is volatile and we don't know if he could wake up tomorrow and say, you know what? I really wanted you guys to have a ceasefire planned today and submit a proposal today. And you didn't. So now we're going to resume fighting. The truth of this is it's really starting to look like the rumors and speculation by political pundits online and commentators ranging from Christopher Hedges on the left to Tucker Carlson on the right is that Donald Trump really got himself into a quandary, a pickle. He really got himself backed into a corner here, and there's no clear off ramps other than just to accept whatever Iran wants. Uh, the truth of the ceasefire is that Iran wasn't going to come talk about the ceasefire tomorrow. They had no interest in having discussions with people who have clearly made it obvious that there is not going to be a ceasefire on the terms that Iran wants, and if there was, it couldn't be trusted. During the last 2 weeks of the supposed ceasefire, the United States has enacted a blockade on the Strait of Hormuz, which constitutes an act of war after the Pakistanis and Iranians clearly meant that Lebanon would be a part of this ceasefire, Israel continued to attack southern Lebanon and killed hundreds of people within one day. And it took Donald Trump saying clearly and firmly, Israel needs to stop attacking Lebanon for the Israelis to stop. Iran holds a lot of the cards here, and that's something that's been very clear since the start of this war and since the Strait of Hormuz was blocked. Donald Trump doesn't have really any political capital anymore. The war has raised prices, specifically gas prices across the country, and people are unhappy about that. While his base in general still supports this war, Republicans 50 and under don't. And Republicans 50 and under are the next generation of voters. They're the mobilizers. They're the people who are going to be supporting Republicans in the primaries or staying home. And the war with Iran and support for Israel is going to be continued sticking post. Not to mention, if you do a partisan polling like we have, this war is unpopular, even with the majority of Republicans supporting it. It's the most unpopular war of our time. Donald Trump's popularity is in the hole. It's not even close to even what it was during his first term or what it was a year ago. He's getting absolutely massacred over this because it was a horrible idea. For whatever reason that he decided to go into this war, which there's a lot of speculation, but I just want to go ahead and throw my hat in the ring. This is not Israel's war. The United States has wanted to go to war with Iran since 1979. They've wanted to destabilize and overthrow the regime and implement a more favorable regime so that they could have access to their oil and other resources in that land, as well as hegemony over the region. This has been very clear, once again, going back to 1979. It's why the United States supported Saddam Hussein in attacking and invading Iran back in the 1980s. And it's why the United States clearly stated after 9/11, as George Bush said in his Axis of Evil speech, that there are three main evildoers, his exact words, in the Middle East, which were Iran, Afghanistan, and Iraq. And then, of course, there's the general who was going around for the longest time. I think he first released his statements in 2007 that he was given a list. I'm just making sure I get his name right. General Wesley Clark has been giving interviews since 2007 that he was given a list of nations they were going to attack and destabilize. And that list included Somalia, it included Syria, it included Yemen, and four others, including Iran, who was last on that list. The six predecessors to Iran on that list have all been taken now, have all been stabilized. Exactly what General Wesley Clark said he was told pre 2007 has all happened. And now Iran was clearly next on that list. You can even go back to like 2012 with Killer Mike's song Reagan, where he clearly hinted at and predicted that we'd be at war with Iran sooner than later. I've been saying it for forever. In fact, in a text message chain with my friends back in 2024, before the November election of that year, I bet my friends that by 2026, no matter who was president, we would be at war with Iran because the United States has motives based in imperialism, like I said in my last video, for going to war with Iran. So they act like this is Israel's war, and though Israel intelligence may have counterbalanced Trump's decision making, it's not. This is the United States war that neocons in our government have wanted for quite a long time. The only problem is the Pentagon has always said it's a bad idea at this moment until we can have the proper resources and dedication for it. The Ukrainian conflict with Russia messed that up. The genocide in Gaza made it even more difficult for us to go into Iran. But Trump had his victories in Venezuela. He had a major victory in Venezuela in overthrowing the Maduro regime and kidnapping a president of another nation illegally and taking him to the United States for trial over trumped up charges. And he thought he could do this. But the only problem is the Iranians are very nationalist. Even if you take out the regime, even if you take out the heads of the regime, like we did with the religious Ayatollah Khamenei, even if you do take out their leadership, the Iranians were gonna, it was very clear they were gonna unify around their government. And that's exactly what has happened now. Iranians are totally on board against the United States. And now the regime just needs to outlast, and they need to use their asymmetrical warfare, like what they've been doing with the Strait of Hormuz, to continue to show one, they can wreak havoc on the economy if they want to. Two, there's very little to nothing you can do unless you send in ground troops. And if you send in ground troops, a lot of them are going to die, and they're going to be like lambs to the slaughter. And three, in attacking the United States bases and military operators in the region of the Gulf states surrounding Iran that have corroborated with the United States, they are showing the GCP states that the United States is not going to protect you. You can't count on the United States. All the interceptors for missiles went straight to Israel. And they didn't really do a whole lot to protect these Gulf states that have been so heavily influenced and worked with the United States for so long, allowing their military bases there. Iran has just been so deliberate and so strategic with everything it's done that the United States and Israel really don't have any cards left. Israel's goals from the get-go were much different than the United States' goals. The United States just wants to control Iran's resources and have a regime that's favorable to them. Israel wants the entire region to be totally destabilized, so support for Hezbollah and Hamas and the Houthis would stop. And that also failed. Israel, there's reports coming out that Israel suffered heavy losses in southern Lebanon, and that the Israelis really underestimated just how weak Hezbollah was. And now we reach the extension of a ceasefire with, which Israel did not want, but had to be told by the President of the United States that they had to abide by, which once again goes in the favor of the United States is calling the shots. The Israel lobby may be very, very prominent and may be very, very influential, but they cannot tell the President of the United States and his administration what to do. They can only try to influence him. And this is why we have so much heavy support for the Israeli government, despite them committing genocide, having genocidal tactics going back to 1948. The United States, of course, started supporting Israel more heavily in 1967. But It's another clear example of that. Donald Trump's calling the shots. As scary as that might be, Israel is not. While Joe Kent resigned and said that he believed this was Israel war and has gone on to say a bunch of other things since then, and it's become very clear that Joe Kent is not really going to be the poster boy we want to listen to, but his resignation was very important and a massive historical moment. And even the prominent thought on the left and right and in a lot of people's ideas is that Israel is controlling the narrative. They're not. This is the United States war, and it's going to be on our terms. It's why the ceasefire has been extended. Donald Trump's political capital is at a whole all-time low. He and the other Republicans are fearing that in the midterms, it could be detrimental to the Republican Party, especially if prices continue to go up, which they will. Inflation has already increased because of this. Oil prices are probably not going to go down or recover for quite some time, even if the Strait of Hormuz is reopened and free pathways for ships through there happen today. The recovery will take months at the very least. We have been at the precipice of recession for quite some time now. And since we have a recession every 5 to 7 years, we are looking at one imminently if this conflict continues. Americans are continually growing more and more dissatisfied with the fact they don't have health care, with the fact that they don't have child care, the fact they don't have education. I mean, you just drive through the United States that you can see in any major city or any rural area, you're going to have to be dodging potholes and just roads that are not well maintained. Americans didn't want this war, and now Donald Trump is in it. And even though yesterday or the day before he said that we're ready to go back to war if we need to, it's clear the American people are not ready to go back to war. They didn't want this war. And in fact, they voted for Trump. The voters of Trump voted in a big way because they thought he wasn't going to do this kind of stuff. Even I, one of the reasons why I was not as pessimistic as some of my friends were when Trump got elected was I thought, hey, at the very least, we may get an end to the Ukrainian conflict. We may get we may not get involved in any more wars because he is going to focus on his dastardly and evil domestic policies. But at the very least, we won't have to worry about our money going towards bombing and killing children in a different country. And I was wrong. We've killed over 1,000 Iranians. Israel has killed close to 3,000 Lebanese, not to mention the continued killings in Gaza and the West Bank. So where do we go from here? What is Donald Trump's play? Well, he really only has one play. And you just have to accept it that Iran has all the cards. The only play I really see that can happen is to say that you got to accept that Iran's going to be able to charge boats for going through the Strait of Hormuz. I think you're going to have to recognize the regime, and I think you're going to have to accept that you can't attack Iran for a long, long time. And then hopefully for Trump's case, he's hoping that by the midterms everyone will have forgotten about this debacle. But since prices aren't really going to quickly go back down, and thanks to this war, the effects of it are gonna be reverberating for the next few months at the very least. If it continues, it's gonna be throughout the end of the year. The political and domestic damages to Donald Trump would be massive, which are nothing compared to the loss of life that we've already seen. I mean, this war started off with the United States bombing a girls' school and killing like 175 people, mostly children, not to mention the killing of teenagers playing volleyball. What else can you say? We all have to stand against this. And while I do disagree with the narratives that Israel got us into this war, and while I do think that they are particularly harming, especially with the blame Israel crowd, especially with conspiracy theories like the JFK assassination or the 9/11 conspiracy theories or things that are starting to become more prominent, at least in social media, I do want to make it clear that I think it is a good thing that Tucker Carlson, I think it is a good thing that Candace Owens, even though she is anti-Semitic, for sure, I think it's a good thing that these people are getting their bases to be against this war. Tucker Carlson, for sure, because Tucker Carlson comes at it with the idea of this is not what Christians do. And while I'm not religious, I think it's good to reach into that base and say, hey, if you consider yourself this and you're a part of my base and a part of like my people, this is not what we do. We don't kill people for that like this. Sorry, I just had an update for this. Uh, Pakistan is, of course, trying their hardest to be diplomatic and spread the peace. And they are trying to make it clear that this is a long-lasting peace, not just a ceasefire, but an agreement holds. Pakistani officials say there are multiple off-ramps available to bring tensions down and bring change that can transform this entire region. Of course, the region has already been changed. It's clear that Iran is going to control the Strait of Hormuz and be a little bit more uh, controlling over it, a little bit more tight-fisted over it. But we'll see. Personally, I hope the ceasefire holds. I hope that war is over. I hope that this awakens people's minds. And even though I disagree with the blame Israel crowd, and I do think we're getting a little bit too close to actual anti-Semitism, which is very dangerous, I would really, really like to see this lead us to saying finally is the time to vote out all these AIPAC sponsored representatives in Congress. We just had a vote in Congress. Bernie Sanders led it. 40 out of the 47 sitting Democrats voted for blocking arms to Israel. I think it would be nice if we do finally, at the very least, stop supporting Israel through weapons shipments and start saying you have to stop being so aggressive and you have to start making peace with your neighbors. Israel's here to stay. That much is clear. But we can still get the borders of Israel secure and like put in concrete. We can still get the people of Syria, who Israel has taken as much land as they possibly can, rumored to be almost all the way to Damascus. They're trying to take southern Lebanon. They're trying to evacuate people from Gaza and the West Bank. That is very clear as the settler attacks and military attacks in Gaza have increased as of late. It would be nice to see some feet being put down and say, we're going to stop supporting Israel until they stop being such an expansionist state and they give one, the Palestinians, some of their land back, returning to the 22% that has been agreed upon in the two-state solutions going back to 1976, I think. And two, stop attacking your neighbors all the time. And three, implement equal rights for all of your citizens. That's the same thing we would want any other country to do, right? Will it happen? We'll see. I hope so. I think there's ways we're going in the right direction with with more people saying we shouldn't support Israel because they're genocidal and they're harmful to our foreign policy. And there's ways that we're going in the wrong direction with the blame Israel crowd who are just spreading conspiracy theories and anti-Semitism. So we'll see. I don't, and by that, I don't think Tucker Carlson is an anti-Semitic person. I think he is a blame Israel crowd person. I think Joe Kent is a blame Israel crowd person. I think they just think that Israel has more control. Same with John Mearsheimer, who wrote the Israel Lobby book. I think these people are just misguided or misunderstanding how our policy works. They just think that Israel has more control than what it actually is. Candace Owens has said some things in the last year that are just straight up anti-Semitic and it can't be interpreted any other way than that. And that is the line that we have to make sure we don't cross. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope the ceasefire holds. I hope that a peace deal that is more significant comes about. And I hope that the United States stops killing innocent people, including innocent people in the Caribbean off the coast of Venezuela, which is still happening. Dropsite News just had an article posted about several people who have been tortured by the United States government. And I also hope that we can have a little bit more of an understanding and peaceful world going forward. Thank you so much for watching this. I'm Zachariah, as always. The first link in the description will be to support Gaza. You could donate there to give food to Gaza as well as other humanitarian aid. And then no Substack article this week for me to promote. But we do have some exciting stuff coming on in the next few weeks, the next few months. I'm working on a few different projects, and I just want to thank you all for supporting this video and watching it as always, and take care.